Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Ops Unfiltered. My name is Jared Ward. I'm the founder and CEO of Luminous. Today we have a new guest. Her name is Kerrie. Everybody welcome Kerrie. How's it going, Kerrie?
Thank you for having me. Nice to see you.
So Kerrie is, well, she's the founder of a lot of things, but a couple of things that we'll be diving into is the Dapper Dog Box. She's After she sold one of her brands, she dove into a lot of marketing freelancing, and I believe right now you're the founder of the E-commerce Society.
Yeah.
What is what is the thing you're most active on right now? Is it the E-commerce Society?
Yeah. I've been doing since I sold the Dapper Dog box, I started doing, consulting work and, agency kind of work, doing websites for people, kind of all the things, Shopify, doing emails. And then I sort of wanted to go into the mentoring and education kind of space. So I've been doing that for 4 years and now sort of looking to minimize that and do some other things. So I'm kind of simplifying my current business, which is the e-commerce society. And we basically do mentorship, education, training stuff for people who want to start an e-commerce business or want to grow it smaller scale, but don't want to rely on advertising. So that's kind of my bread and butter is organic marketing, organic traffic. And yeah, I do definitely dabble in a lot of things. I get bored easily, so I'm always looking for the new thing and which makes it
That's
fun.
amazing.
Makes it fun. If you can start a business, you then want to do all these other businesses. At least that's how I feel. So I know that
Yeah.
your story is pretty much similar, like with starting all these other things. So it's fun.
Yeah, I'm excited to dive into the Dapper Dog box. Because
Yeah.
on Ops Unfiltered, where we try to focus conversation is the messy beginnings of e-commerce companies. So
Yep.
e-commerce operations is such a black box. There's plenty of marketing gurus and who will tell you how to, get the best ROAS and all those things. I think there's a conversation severely lacking on the beginning days within ops. So I'm curious, walk us through eh, any founder who's taken something from start to exit in e-commerce. Walk us through your story with the Dapper Dog Box. Why did you start it, and how did you get started?
Sure. So I think in a nutshell, my like corporate background is in marketing and sales for education. So I used to work for an international education company and I basically got paid to travel the world and promote and sell and market studying in the USA. So dream job when I was, in my 20s and all that. And then I had a baby and I wanted to do something different, went through a bit of a hard time with that transition. And literally out of thin air, I was at the gym and the idea popped into my brain, you should start your own online store. You should start an online store. I had never thought about it before. So I'm sort of an accidental entrepreneur because it wasn't my whole life. I wasn't dreaming of starting a business. It literally flew into my head. And within a week, I was literally sitting at a Starbucks working on the logo for what was the Dapper Dog box. So the idea came into my head.
Wow.
And then I thought, okay, I should do an online store. I should sell a physical product. And then I was like, maybe I'll do a baby subscription box because I literally had a 6-month-old at the time. And then I was like, you know what? That's not my thing. What about something with dogs? I'm a huge dog person, and that kind of made the most sense. And I sat down, I did all the market research, and I can talk about like how I started it, but the nutshell was within a week or so of the idea, I just knew, like I knew it came out of nowhere. I knew, and I just got started. And yeah, the rest is history, I guess.
Well, so even I don't know. It's funny that
We
when people ask
skim
me like how
over
I got
it.
started
We
with something,
skim over.
I have a similar. Yeah, I also skim over, but like those are the interesting things. How did you file an entity? What did you do? What did you not do? How did you get your first product?
Yeah.
Walk us through some of that, some of the boring
Sure.
stuff.
Yeah, no, and I also get bored, not bored. I mean, it's fun to talk about how did you scale your business and all that, but I also love the early days. I love talking about them. I love just hearing what people did when they first started because there's so many mistakes that we all make, but there's also so many really interesting things that you can kind of pull from that. So my early days, again, I came up with the idea, I think it was March of 2016, and I launched in July. So I don't know, I had this like 5-month runway or something. I had never, even though I was in marketing, my background again was selling international education. And so I was more selling an experience. And so the physical product stuff was just, I had no idea what I was doing. And so I kind of just did market research. I figured out I want to do a pet box. I wanted to, how can I be different? I just knew, okay, I need to do something different. I can't follow the herd of everyone else. And I figured out this one loop that no one was doing this one thing, which was in a dog subscription box, no one was giving accessories. So I thought, okay, I'll do dog bandanas and dog bow ties because that's a very differentiator and no one's doing it. And people that love bandanas for their dogs, they really, really like them because that was me with my dog is almost 12 now. And so she's been wearing a bandana every day since she was a puppy. So I think how I first started with the product and all that, I started as a sole proprietor. I had no idea the paperwork, and I was like living in Southern California at the time. And I'm like, Googling, like, how the hell do you start an e-commerce business or subscription box? And I discovered a couple platforms. I filed as a sole proprietor, which I then turned into an LLC once I made money. And again, things happen for a reason. Serendipitously, the same month I decided that I wanted to start this business, the same month there was a huge pet trade show in not Irvine, California, but somewhere where I lived in Orange County. And so I was able to go and then start meeting potential vendors. Like, here's my idea that I'm looking to, and I had no idea what to say. I was basically going up to people, like I looked like such an idiot. I was going up to these brands at this trade show and saying, I'm going to do a subscription box. And I wasn't calling it wholesale, but I was calling it something else. So people were looking at me like I had 300 heads because I had no idea what I was asking. But what I was actually trying to do was basically create a wholesale account with these people. So I was fumbling it up, and anyway, but I ended up leaving that with a few contacts, and they ended up being some of the first people that I purchased their products from. So buying product initially was pretty easy because I just found a couple people in California and just started with that. I signed up with a platform called Cratejoy at the time. Literally
Okay.
no idea what I was doing, but I'm like, oh, Cratejoy does subscription box. Okay, cool. I'll just start with that. And I just kind of fumbled my way through. Hired a developer. Like, one of the biggest mistakes I made was I thought, okay, I need to have a good website. So I'm going to create a custom website, which is a huge mistake. So I hired this developer. I had no idea where I even found him. And $1,500
Well,
or
why was this a big mistake? Because
just because I
a lot of
waste,
people.
yeah, just because I wasted money. I think when you're doing an e-commerce business, in hindsight, I should have done Shopify. Way more powerful. Cratejoy kind of sucks, but again, at the time, you just don't know what you don't know. They make it very easy. If you're doing a subscription box, they make it very easy to get started. And I think when you're in that early stage and you're like, you have so many decisions that you don't know, whatever the easiest one is the one that you're probably going to go with. But I don't think you need a custom website as a first-time business, first-time e-commerce store. Shopify has really good templates that you can customize. Even Cratejoy, their templates are kind of bad, but they still have templates that you can just customize. And then once you know your customer, you know your messaging, you understand the things that you need to focus on in the website, then do some custom stuff. So it's kind of starting scrappy. And then once you're making money, getting customers, understanding like how you should structure the website, I think then you spend more money. So I ended up spending, it wasn't that much money, but at the time I was like bootstrapping it. I think I spent like $1,500. And this developer, I remember, emailed me one day and he was like, yeah, I'm playing around with some colors and shapes on the website. And I was like, you're fired. Like, no, I had nothing.
Oh
I had
gosh.
absolutely nothing on the website. It was like basically a hero section and maybe a button or two, and that was it. And he literally charged me like $1,500. I'm like,
Oh my
okay, I
goodness.
need to learn how to
Wait,
build a website now. Like, cool, let's do it.
so that happens though. I feel like there's so many e-commerce owners who they get bamboozled into. I mean, your story actually isn't too bad. Like fifteen
No,
hundred dollars.
no,
There's
it's
some
not.
people they get charged $20,000,
Oh
$30,000
my God.
for like absolutely nothing. And then it's like, how are you gonna? upkeep this, and then once you start implementing inventory systems, you start
Yeah.
using a 3P. Like, of course, like a bad decision for all that. So, um, interesting though. So you came up with the idea because you were part of you experienced the problem firsthand. You had a pet.
Mm-hmm.
You were on subscription box. You noticed the
Yep.
gap in the market. You went and found some wholesalers. You
Mm-hmm.
acquired your first products. Now, you had a little botched website. What did you end up doing, and how did you get your first sales?
So just to like take back to the early days. So when I first got my dog Asha, I got BarkBox. So BarkBox is like the number one leader in the pet subscription space. They're basically Godzilla, and everyone else is like they're little mice. They're huge. They take up so much market.
Mm,
And basically, I got BarkBox early on when I got my dog. I didn't like it. I thought the quality was really poor, and I just didn't like it. And so again, when I was creating the idea for the box, I knew, okay, I want to do whatever BarkBox is not doing, high quality. I'm going to attract this like the millennial who has a golden doodle, who, cares about the aesthetic and all that. So I kind of really ran with that vibe. I wanted it to be the highest quality, and I was the most expensive. So I basically launched with the most expensive product, and not, oh, well, I'm going to do what everyone else does and do something really cheap. So that was one thing. And then basically, when I came up with the idea, I instantly knew, and some of these things too, I'm not really sure how I knew to do them, but I don't know, I just did it. I started an Instagram, and I really took people behind the scenes with me. I started to share, here's the logo I'm doing, here's what I'm doing. What do you think of this? I started showcasing some of the vendors I was going to be working with. Even if they weren't going to be in the first box, I still shared, we're going to be working with this company, this treat company. This is the first bandana. So I really took people behind the scenes and actually grew the account quite quickly, even though now it's pretty
mm.
much impossible to do that on Instagram. And so I also started growing the email list. I had a really good, not good, it was a landing page. And I'm laughing because I have a funny story about that. But I started a landing page, and I started promoting whoever gives me, give me your email and you get 10% off for life. So I tried to give a really good incentive to get an email list. And as I was pre-launching the business, I really pushed people to join the email list, and I sent them teaser emails. I told them, the story. Here's the story about my dog. My dog is the inspiration, blah, 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 blah. I really leaned into email marketing. And when I launched, I was like, oh my God, am I going to get any sales? I was so nervous. And I think I don't remember what my first month was, but maybe 1,000 or 500. I don't know, like not a lot, but people bought it. So I'm like, okay, people bought the product.
Mm.
There's something, again, your first month is probably not going to be good. And I didn't have expectation it was going to be good, but I knew I got people on the email list. I promoted on Instagram. And after I got that first week of sales, I emailed every single person and I asked them, how did you find me? And why I'm trying to understand the business. So it's new. Tell me why you chose me and not a competitor. So I tried
I
to
love that.
understand, yeah, I tried to understand the why, but then also, how did you find me? And most people at that point said, I found you from Instagram and then joined your email list. So that was the first early days, was Instagram email list. And I kind of just focused on those two, and, grew slowly, but the first year, but, got some traction. So
Oh, walk me through some of the things that were happening um, within things that people don't think about, like fulfillment and
ah.
purchasing. Like how did you run those your first couple months? Was it just very reactive? Did you have any tech that was helping you out? So did you have Shopify? Did you download ShipStation? Like
Yeah.
what were you using?
So I was using CrateJoy, and I was using a shipping platform, Pirate Ship. So I
Ah,
was
I know
using,
Partnership.
yeah, I love Pirate Ship, was great. They made it really easy. So I used those two for shipping and all that. Fulfillment was just like literally every time there was an order, I'm like, yeah, I got an order. And I would literally like
Yeah,
run and pack a box, and literally, I'm not joking, run and ship it. Like I would drive every single order immediately to the post office, which again, I understand is not smart with systems and all that. But my goal for that first few months was get people their order as quickly as possible, create whatever kind of good experience I could immediately, and then get them to share with friends and family. That was sort of my strategy from
Yeah.
the beginning. And but there was no systems, there was nothing. I literally would get an order, I would print out the shipping label on paper, and then I would tape, like, so messy. I would tape the paper on the box with some kind of tape or something. And then eventually I ended up getting
Yeah.
a label printer, which makes sense. But yeah, there was no inventory systems. I literally was doing everything out of my
Oh, of
living
course.
room. I had boxes and pet toys everywhere. It was a mess, but
So
it was
I
fun.
talk about I talk about this all the time at Luminous. So Luminous, we talk about the journey of like an e-commerce entrepreneur with ops,
Hmm.
and I talk about there's the garage stage at the beginning where you're not using any systems for inventory. Like an order comes in, you're jazzed, you just slap on the label, ship
Yep.
it out.
Yep.
Like I always talk about, I always try to find the transition to growth stage. Like when did you start to understand like, oh, I actually might have something here? It was when like when did you make your first hire? Did you outsource to a 3PL? Like when things started expanding a little bit, talk us
Yeah.
through that. What were the trigger points?
I didn't so my business, I was making, so when I first launched it, again, I think I made 400 or 500, whatever, maybe the first month. By the time I sold the business, my sales were about 200,000 per year. That was the final year I had my business. I made 200K, no ads, no influencer stuff, just organic, scrappy. So really, by the time I went to sell the business, I had about 600 subscription box subscribers, but I also sold on Amazon. I had Amazon subscriptions. I was one of the first to be invited to the Amazon subscription. So I
Mm.
sold Amazon subscriptions, and I also sold one time like e-commerce style products on my website and on Amazon. So I was kind of, and I had another marketplace I was selling on. So I was kind of selling on a bunch of different places.
Mm.
And I literally, from the first day I had the business until the very end, I did everything. So by the end of the business, I was literally my garage. So we lived in, at this point, we moved to Seattle and we lived in a townhouse. And my husband had to sell his car because we literally had no space to run the business. The business was the bottom floor of the whole townhouse. So one
Oh,
indoor
that's awesome.
interior room, a huge, like, massive closet, and then the whole garage. And so everything was stacked with boxes, dog toys everywhere. So at that point, when I was looking to sell the business, I actually was also, I knew if I didn't sell it, I had to move out of, like, I had to move into either a 3PL or a warehouse. The problem was my the subscription box and the fulfillment was so messy. I wasn't sure that I would actually ever be able to go into a 3PL because of the customization that I offered people. And people
Mm.
had different, people like no chicken for this person and no this for this person. And I had to, people got different dog bandana sizes. And then just, I was literally doing things off of an Excel sheet. I had every month I would ship orders out and I would have to write in a freaking Excel sheet what I gave them. It was such a disaster and it was so messy. And I still feel like I have post traumatic stress syndrome over packing boxes because I spent so much of my life at the end packing boxes and shipping them and going to the post office. And it's so clear to me today that, okay, Kerrie, you should have hired someone. You should, that should have been the first thing that I did in year two, was have someone come to my house and pack boxes. And I was such a control freak. I thought no one could ever pack a box like I could, like an idiot, because that no one can learn how to pack a box, right? So I never had employees. I never hired people. I did have a couple contract people that would help me with graphic design sometimes, and I did a website update, and I had a designer who helped me. So like I had a couple contract projects, but I didn't have any employees or any help. I just did basically me doing everything like a crazy person. I worked 24/7 and it was not a good situation.
And so I want to dive a little bit into that.
Yeah.
Why do you think you didn't hire somebody? You talk about being control freak, but
Yeah.
was it because you were so cost focused? Like every hire at that point seemed like, okay, that's cutting from my margins. But like, what do you think was holding you back from
Yeah.
making that decision to hire somebody or to put in like a system?
Yeah. I don't know, honestly. I think part of it probably was of like losing money, even though you're not, because you're buying your time back. Again, things are very clear today as I'm sitting here talking to you, but back then it was just like, I don't know. I think I was either a just really control freak. I know that I was, but I think part of the problem too is probably I don't want to pay, a fear of paying for things. So I also was always afraid of investing in software or investing in, joining a
Mm.
coaching program or something. I remember I found a course once and it was $200 and I'm like, "Oh my God, I can't spend that much money." So I think part of it was just being really cheap and part of it was the control freak thing, but control freak part 100% took over. So,
So if it was you looking at it nowadays, how do you make how let's transplant you back into that time
yeah.
where you're fulfilling orders every day. How how would you walk yourself through that decision of like, oh, actually, it's probably worth it to hire a $10 an hour employee to do this so that I
Mhm.
can, focus on selling marketing. Like, how do you view those decisions today? And how do you balance like, oh no, this actually is too expensive. It's not good for this phase versus like, no, we actually need it.
Yeah. I think today I would just view it and look at how much is my time worth and how much do I like or hate that task. So I think that's a huge part of it. Obviously, cost plays a part. At some point, okay, I can't afford $1,000 a month software, but I can afford the $100 one. So I think cost can, as long as you're okay to spend it and you maybe, I don't know, for me it was really hard to spend money. I'm very different now. I'm kind of like, here, take all the money as long as I don't have to do that. I don't want to do it. So
Yeah.
I think it comes from for me it came from experience, but today I view decisions based on time, like how much will that take? Do I want to do it? Do I not want to do it? Is it worth my time? And do I want to do it? So I tend now to outsource things that I despise doing. And I'm actually starting another e-commerce business. And one of the first things that I 100% will be outsourcing is the fulfillment, because that's the thing that I don't want to do. I don't want to pack boxes. I don't want to pack orders. I don't want to go to the post office. So, and I don't want to do customer service emails. So, with the next business, those are the first things I will hire out for a virtual assistant, and then probably someone to come to the house and pack boxes, and then I don't know, come up with some kind of a
Yeah.
system. But yeah, for me, it's just from
It's
experience. I value my time more now than I think I used to. So,
Yeah, it's so interesting because I talk about like when I see the evolution of e-commerce companies as they grow and expand, and
yeah.
part of that when you're in your garage stage, when you
Yep.
transition to the growth stage, it's like you outsource everything, like fulfillment to a 3PL, bookkeeper, customer service in the Philippines, like
Yep.
anything. Like I don't want to touch it. I just want to sell my product.
Yep.
And then what's interesting, I see companies as they transition from the growth stage and like it's like, oh wow, we've got some serious revenue here, then they
Mm-hmm.
start bringing stuff back in house and
Hmm.
forming like a big enterprise. Like
Interesting.
I've seen companies now, they hit $50 million, and when they're wanting to optimize margins, they'll
Wow.
they'll bring the 3PL. Okay, let's actually start to doing more fulfillment in house. We can save more money. We have more control over the
Mm.
brand. Let's actually hire a bookkeeper. It's going to be more cost effective in the long run. So it's interesting
Interesting.
how that all comes into play.
It does.
Um, so walk us through when you got bought. Um,
Mhm.
what was that like? What was the process like?
Oh my gosh. Most, I still think the selling of the business is my most proud business achievement, even though I didn't make like a ton of money or anything. It was a good first starter sale. I'll say that. I made enough, but
Yeah.
just a good achievement. I also think too, when I started that business, I never intended to sell it. I didn't even know that you could sell a
Mm,
business. Now, when I start my next one, from day one, I know I'm building this to sell. You run it totally differently. So again, I just think it's funny what comes from experience and like the mistakes you make with the first business versus the second or third. You know so much better.
yes.
But I kind of knew in the second year, I started to feel so someone actually in this right after about a year into the business, someone who I met at one of those pet events, they reached out to me and they were like, "Oh, my boss wants to buy your business. Could you come and meet us or whatever?" I'm like, okay, interesting. So I ended up meeting these people, and they had this weird company in California. It was, I don't know if they made like towels or something. I don't know. It was like a really weird, very sketchy situation, the whole thing. But because of meeting these weird people, it got into my head, oh, I could sell my business. Like, that's really cool. So then maybe a year
Mm.
later, I was in a Facebook group, and a subscription box business broker kept posting that she helps people sell subscription boxes. So anyway, I reached out to her and I said, "Oh, I might be wanting to sell my business at some point next year. What's the process? Could you help me?" So she kind of gave me a couple pointers, like get as much profit as humanly possible. Profit, profit, profit. I'm like, "Okay." So then maybe 6 months before I sold, I was feeling burnt out. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to do something else. I'm ready to move on. I think I wanted balance in my life, even though that doesn't really exist. I think if you have a business,
Yeah.
because I had a young son at the point, and I was like, I'm spending all my time
Mm.
working. I need to not do this anymore. So I reached out to her, and we started the process of the sale. She had me fill out some paperwork, and we had a couple calls, and I mean, we listed the business in maybe November or December. No, November, and then someone bought it in January. I had a couple phone calls with a couple prospective people, and then that was pretty much it. So it was honestly so easy. It was such a positive experience. She did everything for me. She was absolutely incredible. Um, Really, really good experience. So, and I've never felt happier than the day that escrow payment went through. And I felt this like
Oh, wow.
literally wave of freedom over my body. I'm like, I don't have to go to the post office anymore. It was
Oh,
really,
that is so
really
cool.
funny. Yeah, it's like one of those, you have moments in life that you can remember back, but you can picture how you felt and everything. And that's, I would say, few moments in life, but that one just totally stands out in my memory. I was sitting on the couch, it came through. I'm like, oh my God. And then a few days later, we're literally packing pallets of stuff to be shipped from Seattle to California, and just getting rid of the business I just spent 3 years building. It was like my second baby, and you have mixed emotions, but the best thing I ever did was start the business. The equally best thing I did was sell it. It was time to move on, and like I think you have to know when it's time and just move on. So
What a great story. I love that. What, now that we talked through the entire journey of that business, what was your biggest regret? What would you go back and change? And it doesn't even have to be one
yeah,
necessarily.
I think I really regret not outsourcing stuff. So I'm a marketer. I and I'm better at marketing physical product than I am with what I'm doing now. I feel like I'm a bad marketer with my own business because I don't know. It's different when buy my program, buy my course. It's not really fun. But hey, buy this really cool dog product for your dog. Like it's so much
Yeah.
easier. I really regret not leaning into the marketing side of things more. I really relied heavily on leveraging customers to basically sell for me in a sense. Like I had a referral program. I didn't have a loyalty program, but I would give customers that were loyal, I would give them extra things. I really relied on getting UGC from customers. So anyway, that was kind of my main strategy for the business. I did affiliate marketing. I really relied on email, but by the end, I was spending so much time fulfilling orders, going through my crappy Excel sheets, trying to figure out what did I give this customer last month? Because again, I had no good systems. I wish I would have found you, although I think I was probably not big enough to have joined your company at that point. But yeah, just not when you have a business, marketing is everything. Marketing is how your business will grow. And if you're spending
Mm.
all of your time doing the $10 an hour tasks, then your business is only going to get to a certain point. And like I said, I didn't do advertising. I didn't pay influencers. Everything was organic, scrappy, SEO, email, social media. I had a really like 42,000 followers on Instagram, and Instagram was a huge source
Oh
of,
my goodness.
yeah. And I just built this really engaged community. Dog people are the best for anyone listening that wants to start a pet business. They are the best customers.
Mm.
You can create such community with dog people because people love to talk about their dogs, show their dogs. all the things, and they're the best customers because they love to showcase your product if they like it. So yeah, so I think that's my big regret. I don't really have any other regrets because I give myself grace. It was my first business and I literally just had a
Yeah.
child, but that's a big one. Like if I had just outsourced, I would have freed up more time and mental space to do more marketing. I could have grown more, and maybe I wouldn't have gotten so burnt out that I wouldn't have wanted to sell the business. Although I think in the end it was the right decision for me, but you know, spending hours every day packing boxes, that's not a good use of my time. And it wasn't a good use of my time. And I should have known better, but I don't know. I didn't know better. So yeah, that's a big regret.
Well, I think your story is definitely one worth sharing, and it's especially in the days of, it seems like everybody talks about milestones, like
Yeah.
revenue milestones and funding achievements. And
Yeah.
the thing is, there's a lot of e-commerce companies nowadays that go through like public funding rounds, and they outsource everything and they hire the best in the world to do everything.
Hmm.
There's definitely a path for people to do what you did, which is bootstrap everything. You don't have to do meta ads. You can build an engaged community, organic,
Hmm.
and you can have a good outcome like this. I think I wish more stories like yours were at the forefront of e-commerce, because I think these are the true cool stories in e-commerce, in my opinion. So
Well, thank you. Yeah. A lot of, I also think too, when you're small and scrappy, it's most online stores are going to be like that. You hear about the poppies who, I think they went to a farmer's market to showcase. Do you know Poppy, the soda brand? I'm obsessed with them.
yes, I do. Yeah.
They went to a farmer's market, and I don't know how much of this is actually accurate. They went to the farmer's market when they first came up with the product idea, went to a farmer's market, and a Whole Foods distributor or someone found them and instantly wanted them to be in Whole Foods. I mean, how often does that kind of thing happen? It doesn't. It's like
Wow.
it's the unicorn story, but I think a lot of people will see the poppies of the world or I don't know, other companies and they're like, "Well, my business isn't growing. What am I doing wrong?" And most businesses don't have those Whole Food stories or, then they were on Shark Tank. And I don't know if they got a deal with one of the sharks. I think they did. But it's just like those aren't the normal stories. It's more the normal stories are the people who start a business and it doesn't go anywhere and they close it. That's actually like the
Yeah.
norm, even though that's unfortunate. But yeah, the small stores are more normal, but you have to kind of go through those. I think at least go through the scrappy stages to kind of know what you're doing. I think like I have a friend who started a company and she was a business coach and she started an accessory brand and she hired out everything from the beginning. She hired someone to do the website for her. She hired me to help her launch the business. She hired someone else to do this and this and this. And she kind of didn't have to go through, and there's no shame in this. I think if you can afford it, awesome. Like you don't need to know how
Yeah.
to do all this crap, but there's some merit in going through the trenches of figuring out and learning how do you build a website? How do you do all the email marketing stuff? Like how do I actually do SEO and keyword research? Like there's a lot of positives for kind of going through all that crap work and learning what to do because then when you do the second business, you're so much better set up because you know all the stuff that you didn't know the first time. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Well, that was a wonderful story. And our time is almost up. I appreciate you coming on and sharing that with everybody. I think a big takeaway for me is, especially as I run a software company, is it's always this reminder of um, focusing on your organic
Hmm.
reach is so important. It sounds like that was actually kind of your secret sauce there.
Oh
You
yeah,
were you were
totally.
really good and you doubled down on that and you
Hmm.
built a profitable bootstrap business that was able to exit. I think everybody, and even in the software B2B marketing industry, we we underestimate that a lot. So that was one of my takeaways.
Oh, good. Thank you. I appreciate that. But thank you
All
for
right,
having me
where
on.
can everybody?
Oh,
Yeah, where can
sorry.
everybody find you?
Sure. So my Instagram is kerrie.a.fitzgerald, Kerrie. My website, kerriefitzgerald.com. And I also have a podcast, which Jared was on recently, Ecommerce Society podcast. So those are some places you can find me.
Yeah, she's a great follow. But anyways, thanks, Kerrie, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Thank you so much.